Welcome, everybody, to Week 6 College Football Review. Coming to you live from She Shed Radio Studios in Alabama. We're finishing up, getting close to the halfway point here, JB, in Week 6. Offered a good many upsets. A lot of ranked teams lost anyway. As I guess we can just go ahead and get right into our games of the week. What was the biggest game of the week, surprise, or just the biggest game in general to shape the season thus far?
I guess everybody Auburn and Florida, from my opinion. Auburn and Florida. I thought Auburn would go, and I really thought Auburn would win that game. But I didn't realize how good Florida's defense was.
Well, and I think too, I did have that as one of my picks that I liked last week, but I wanted to see what the Bo Nix kid would do when he really had to, when he was in a hostile environment. I know he won the game he led the drive against Oregon, but if you look at their offense, Auburn's offensive output this year, they've really not shown up at any time except for Texas A&M.
No, Florida has a lot of seniors and juniors on their defense, and I think actually the first play of the game was at the first play where he took a big sack. I think that set the tone.
Oh, I do too.
I think it rattled him a little bit, and he wasn't quite as confident.
But I know this. They built that kid up, and I don't care how good a quarterback you are. When you're a true freshman, you're a true freshman, and what did he throw for yesterday? Just over 100 yards.
I think so. What did he have? 3 interceptions?
Yeah, he had 3 interceptions at critical times. To me, he's not even the best freshman quarterback in the West. I think the kid at Ole Miss is looking a lot better than him. He's only played 2 games, and he's played against Alabama, and he played another SEC opponent yesterday. And Bo Nix, he's not running the ball. He's only throwing for $125, $150 a game. He had the number 18, Seth. What was his name? William. Had him wide open. Throws it over his head. He falls down. It's a walk-in 6 if he hits him in stride. 2 plays later, he throws a pick.
Florida's defense really, really got after him, and it affected him. He's and even Auburn's running game really didn't get going. They got going a little bit in the second half, but I think in the first half they only had maybe 36 yards of rushing.
They had 2 first downs.
Yeah, so. But Florida was fired up,
Florida was.
It's hard they were fired up. They're believing in themselves this year.
They are.
So, and it's hard. That swamp is tough to play in, and obviously they wasn't quite as good as I thought Auburn was. Their defense is still good.
It is.
But Florida was ready. Florida had a good game plan. I still think Dan Mullen made some stupid calls.
That fake punt was the stupidest call I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Why would you run a fake punt deep inside your territory when Auburn's quarterback has not shown at any point really all year that he's capable of leading a team down the field to score? You had all the momentum. You had nothing to gain but to lose. And I get it that Mullen and Malzahn, I don't think they really care for each other a whole lot.
But Mullen, he's done that stuff his whole career, and that's going to cost him some. That's going to cost him some games, and it has cost him games in the past. That's just the way he coaches. It was really dumb. In my opinion, it was really dumb.
It was stupid.
The way Florida's defense was playing, Auburn couldn't even move the ball.
That kept them in the game.
Exactly.
And that was
next
play later they threw a touchdown.
Yeah. And how many turnovers? 8? Was there 8 turnovers in the game between both teams? And even I call the fake punt a turnover.
Yeah.
So Florida had 5 turnovers and still won.
I agree with you. I think especially in these neck of the woods, that game has the biggest ramifications of how the season's going to play out, because it's not getting any easier for Auburn. They've got to play at LSU. They've got to play Georgia. They've got to play Alabama. And Auburn has a tendency, whenever they get out of the West, they have a tendency to fold 10. And you know, everybody was singing Gus Malzahn's praises earlier this year, you know, but if he loses another 4 games this year, which he will be underdogs in every one of those games. Georgia game may be close to a pick.
You got to be careful, though, because Auburn, you know how
I know how they are, but
they'll slip up and win 1 or 2 of those games.
They will.
Somehow.
They will, but it ain't. What I'm saying is that when they lose to LSU, and they will be out of the SEC West race.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that defense plays then. And Florida goes to LSU this week, and a lot of bad blood between Florida and LSU going back several years over the way the Hurricane game and all that was handled, and Florida's had the upper hand, beating them several times. So it's going to be Coach O's really has LSU, and we'll talk about that in the games of the week. But just looking at this past week, did you see that Michigan-Iowa game?
That was
that sent football back 50 years.
Was there 10? What was it? 10-3.
10-3, Michigan, and
defense, wasn't it?
I mean, that's old-timey football. Do you think that's going to? Michigan won. More power to them. They were at home.
No, they're not.
I have that as games of the week. But it really wasn't a game of the week, other than it was just so pathetic of a football game.
Yeah, neither one of those teams are gonna. I mean, they're not gonna win a championship with that kind of playing with that kind of style. I mean, years ago, that's what used to win championships. But I mean, the game has changed so much now. If you don't have some kind of offense, you're not going to win.
I agree. That was a pitiful excuse for a guy. I just don't see Michigan. I just brought that up I don't see them getting any better, and I don't know how this Harbaugh deal is going to work out at Michigan. You hear Atlanta, he's on one of the favorites for the Atlanta job if it comes open there.
Well, he better beat
Atlanta,
Ohio State if he wants to.
I don't see there's any way. Speaking of Ohio State, you see what they did? Just dismantled Michigan State, 34-10.
Yeah, it was close, and it was close there for a while. So
it is.
I mean, I think some of these teams got a little ahead of themselves and got a little too much confidence, and then reality set in. I mean, Michigan, Ohio State, they went back to looking. The game didn't really start off that good for either team, but Ohio State. Yeah, they put 24 points up when they've been scoring 60 and 55.
Well, they scored 34. They won 34-10.
34. Okay, I thought it was 24.
It was 24 at halftime. 24-10 at halftime. They ended up winning. Michigan State over the years has given Ohio State trouble, and this is a game that would have been closer in years past. But to me, Ohio State. And the polls will come out a little later on this afternoon. I look for them to pass Georgia. I think they'll move up to number 3. As dominant as they've been, even though Georgia looked good yesterday, Georgia just dominated Tennessee.
After halftime, I guess you could say.
But Tennessee, they came out. They played the new kid. What was his name? Marr
or something like that. I can't.
And Garantino, he's on the bench. He had to come in there at the end, but they looked pretty good with that new quarterback, freshman quarterback. He looked pretty good.
Yeah, they were fired up. They came out and played over their head, I think, a little bit. But I also think Georgia thought they were going to walk in there and just like I thought. I figured it would be about 35-0 by halftime.
Yeah.
But reality set in, and of course, Georgia's a lot better than Tennessee.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the best Georgia looked all year, though.
They did. Yeah, they looked after they got going. After they realized, hey, we better take it serious. Then they started putting the points up.
Yeah, I agree. Those were the big games this week. Then breaking down the conferences, the ACC, you had Clemson that was off, so They're getting ready for a big Florida State game this week. Oh, I say big Florida State game. Florida State can probably match them up with athletes, but by no means am I saying Florida State's going to win that game. But talent-wise, Florida State will probably match them up as well as anybody they will play the regular season. Hey, Wake Forest still undefeated in the ACC. You believe that? That coach there has really he's really done good at Wake Forest. Yeah. They're the only two unbeaten teams. When you move over to the Big Ten, Wisconsin, again, had a huge victory point-wise over a Kent State team, but they won the game 48-0. It's their third shutout of the year.
Yeah. Wisconsin.
So Wisconsin, keep an eye. I really believe that the Big Ten is the second best, maybe the best conference in all of football. You've got Penn State that's looking good. Penn State had a big win over Purdue yesterday, 35-7. Both of those teams are undefeated. And then we've talked about Ohio State, but then another team that's undefeated in the Big Ten's Minnesota. So
Minnesota. So I haven't even seen them play. I don't know.
They're flying under the radar. Big 12, two teams undefeated, Oklahoma and Baylor, believe it or not, still undefeated. So Baylor is undefeated this through September into the first week of October. That's a little surprising. And we're going to find out about Oklahoma this week. And we will talk about that in the games coming up this week. But that, to me, that is the first of two games between these two.
Oklahoma, Texas. Yeah.
I do not think Oklahoma had a big win yesterday. Jalen Hurts didn't put up the stats he's been putting up, but I think maybe a lot of that was looking ahead to Texas this week, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Pac-12, they're not getting in the playoff this year. I see a lot of okay teams, but I don't see a lot of I don't see any really good teams. And we'll see how that plays out. Arizona, they had a big win yesterday. They moved to 4-1. They stumbled against Hawaii. We talked about that a little bit last week.
They beat Colorado, yeah.
And Colorado's playing better under Mel Tucker, but that was a big win for Arizona. And probably their only hope would be just chaos to break out and Oregon to go undefeated the rest of the way just to even have a shot. Washington, they lost yesterday to Stanford late last night. So all this hype about Washington, just it's over with. It's done.
Nebraska had a win over Northwestern.
Yeah, Nebraska.
Northwestern's not the Northwestern.
Well, they won their side last year, but they have struggled this year. Nebraska, all those teams on that side of the Big Ten, I just don't see any of them being able to play with Wisconsin.
No, Wisconsin's got that.
They've got that side locked up. And when you look at the SEC, we've down to 4 teams undefeated: Bama, LSU in the West, Georgia and Florida in the East. And I think after those teams, there's a separation between them and the other ones. That's going to play out later on as the year goes, as Bama will host LSU. That game's going to get built up big time, especially if LSU beats Florida this weekend. You could be looking at another game of the century.
I don't think it'll be 9-6.
No, it might be at kickoff. Because both those teams are putting up points, not like in 2011. But I think those 4 teams are the 4 best teams in the SEC, and it's going to play out between those. I think after that you've got another tier after that. Auburn's in that tier. They're not I don't see them getting a whole lot better on offense. So
not this year.
No. And we will just see. That the polls are going to come out later on this afternoon, like we said, and we're filming this show a little bit early before they've came out. Look to see if the coaches poll have came out. They usually come out with that poll first. But Auburn was the only team that lost in the top 10. So I don't suspect that there's going to be a lot of movement. I think, I think Ohio State will pass Georgia, but for what does that really matter between 3 and 4?
Nothing.
I think Penn State may pass Texas to be the 10th ranked team. So the polls they've not came out yet.
Hasn't come up yet.
So we will just see. So it's basically going to remain non-changed with Auburn taking a fall and probably Penn State coming into the top 10 if I had to guess. So we move into this week. This week coming up is probably the best football weekend of the year. There's great games all day long. We've got games starting Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday night, and then Saturday is just unbelievable. And it starts at 11 o'clock Saturday morning.
Problem is you can't watch them all at the same time.
No, you can't, but I'm gonna do my best to watch what I can. Texas at Oklahoma, 11 o'clock Saturday morning.
Man, I don't know. I don't even have Texas to me has has probably the best defense in the Big 12. But that's not saying a whole lot, I think they're a little bit better than most teams.
What if Oklahoma just goes out there and blows them out by 4 touchdowns?
Well, if they do that, then you could probably go on and put Oklahoma in the playoff. But I'm sure that, like you said, they'll play again. They're going to play twice.
They're going to play twice, and the team that wins it the second time is probably going to be the one that represents them if there's a team from the Big 12. And the way it's shaping right now, I think if you've got an undefeated team, there's no doubt that Oklahoma.
Well, now Texas already has a loss.
They do.
Are they going to be the first two-loss team to get in? I don't know.
Well, that's a good question. So that's a very good question, especially if you've got LSU there with just one loss.
Yeah.
They wouldn't get in over LSU. So I pretty much think it's Oklahoma or bust for the Big 12 getting a team in the playoff. Unless, some things could happen. LSU could win the SEC, and Texas could, go 12-1, 11-1, 12-1. They could represent. But this is a huge game, the game of the year for the Big 12, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Saturday morning, 11 o'clock. Then you move right to Alabama at Texas A&M.
Yeah, that should be a good game.
CBS game. I'm surprised CBS picked that game.
I wish they hadn't.
I wish it would have been at night, but it's the 2:30 game, and
should be a good one.
It should be a good one. Alabama's, if
I don't think Texas A&M can stop Alabama from scoring, but I don't know if Alabama can stop Texas A&M. I think we can stop them enough to win the game, but you know how it is down there. Last year Mond found the little bit of the weakness in Alabama's defense, being able to run, and Kellen Mond had a good bit of yardage rushing last year, so I assume they'll probably try to do some of the same thing this year. And as we know, Alabama's defense is still kind of searching for an identity, which is not good at this time of year. But at least they have an offense that can score points. So Alabama.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how that defense comes back after a week off. Have they gotten better with this week off? Is there going to be any new faces that we see in that defense? They've had a week to work through some stuff. As many coaches as they have on that team, they know where their weaknesses are. And I just wonder if we see any new faces, any different schemes that they do. So we will see.
I hope so.
Huge game in the SEC, that night game, Florida at LSU. I think that's a
Florida, 2 big games back to back.
Yeah.
Will Florida be able to
and
avoid
they've had a lot of big games.
letdown? I mean,
they've had Miami. They've had several big games. They've been battle tested.
I mean, Florida just came off to them, and I guess they would, a huge win against Auburn. So will they have a letdown? You know how you come off of a big win and don't the next week
you're on the road in a hostile environment. Yeah, I agree. So those 3 big games right there, Texas at Oklahoma. Who do you like?
Man, I can't pick it.
I like Oklahoma.
Do you?
I like Oklahoma. I like Jalen Hurts to put up big numbers, and I think Texas will score as well. But I don't think Texas is in Oklahoma's league. We're going to see. I think Oklahoma's defense is going to show up, and they're going to play a lot better than what people think. I think this could be a statement game for Oklahoma.
It could.
But I like Oklahoma. Alabama and A&M, any surprises there?
Nah, I think Alabama's going to win. I think it's probably going to be a little nerve-wracking for a little while, but I think Alabama has a superior offense.
Yeah.
Obviously that,
And Texas A&M struggles scoring points.
Yeah, but down there at Texas A&M,
I agree.
They're going to be fired up. They're going to be. So I expect, until reality sets in, I expect it to be a closer game than what most Alabama fans like. But in the end, I just don't see Texas A&M being able to stop Alabama's offense.
Yeah. Saturday night in Baton Rouge, who you like?
Wow, man.
Come on, man. Pick it.
Saturday night in Baton Rouge. I got to go with LSU.
I'm going with LSU, too. I think LSU blows them out.
I don't know about the blowout, but
I think they blow it out. I think that dumb coaching that Mullen did,
that'll get him beat.
That's going to get him beat down there, pulling some stunts like that. So
against the LSU's offense this year, that would definitely be get him in trouble.
And we talked about, hey, those 3 games, they start at 11 for Texas, Oklahoma, then Alabama and A&M's 2:30, then Florida and LSU that night. That's all 3. You can watch all 3 of those games.
Yeah.
You don't have to miss any of that. And then the rest of the games is loaded with good games. We've talked about Hawaii, how good they've played this year.
Yeah.
They go to Boise. That's a late game that Saturday night. USC at Notre Dame. That's always a big tradition game. Notre Dame wins that game. Helton seat could get really hot.
That'll be a good game, I believe.
That's going to be a good game. You got Penn State at Iowa. Can Iowa come back into the 21st century after playing Michigan?
I don't think so.
I think Penn State rode, but that game's at Iowa.
Yeah.
But Penn State, I think Penn State's a real good team. Those are the games of on the national scale, but then we've got 3 in the SEC that I find interesting. Mississippi State at Tennessee.
Both sorry teams. I don't know.
I know. I agree, but
I believe
Tennessee give the dreaded vote of confidence to Jeremy Pruitt this year.
Yeah.
Now, how many times do you see that and that ever ends up good?
Not many.
Not many.
Maybe never.
And then you got Alabama the next week.
Yeah.
But if Tennessee could find a way to beat Mississippi State, they play Vanderbilt, which is horrible.
Yes.
They play Kentucky. They play UAB. They could slip in there if they could find a way to beat South Carolina or Missouri.
Yeah, I don't see it.
This is a key game for Pruitt. If he loses this game at home against Mississippi State, with Alabama coming to town, could they make a change?
No, not mid-season. They won't.
They had all that. They kicked that player off the team with the trouble with the law.
Yeah. What are they going to do?
I'm just saying.
I mean, Fulmer already said.
Why did he come out and give a vote of confidence?
He gave a vote of confidence and said his coaching days are over. So if they were to,
well, T. Martin's down there. That's his coach.
Yeah,
he could just watch it if Tennessee loses that game. Yeah. They wouldn't do it before the Alabama game, but they would after the Alabama game. Just watch it. If Mississippi, that is what is so interesting to me about that game. South Carolina, Georgia, really.
Georgia.
Only thing is Georgia sometimes plays to the level of their opponents. Georgia, Kirby Smart and Muschamp, they're good friends.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how that. Last game of note, Ole Miss at Missouri.
Yeah, I kind of like Ole Miss in this game.
It's at Missouri, but Bryant got hurt last night. They don't know if he's going to be able to play.
Yeah, I mean, Ole Miss waxed Vanderbilt, which I was pretty sure that was going to happen.
But they just dominated them.
You know, Ole Miss is
their defense is playing good.
They're playing better than the quarterback they got. You know, I mean, he needs some polishing, but I mean, basically, he's a running back.
Yeah.
But he's fast. I mean, he's not a bad player. He's pretty good. You know, but I don't think Missouri's that good anyway. So I think Ole Miss is riding a little bit of momentum.
They are.
I think I like Ole Miss in that game.
Anyway. Their defense is playing good. I'm curious to see what that line comes out this evening. It probably won't come out until they know the status of Kelly Bryant. Yeah. But if Ole Miss could win that game, they could find themselves somehow, because they still have New Mexico State on the schedule. They got 3 wins right now.
They could get to 6.
They could get to 6 if they could win this game. So it's a big game for Ole Miss. Big game. Hey. And next week is basically the halfway point of the season. It's just flying by.
Yep.
And we thought it was Alabama and Clemson, but I think it's Alabama, Ohio State.
Oklahoma's in there.
Oklahoma. I'd still put Clemson in there, even though they've looked. Wisconsin, maybe Penn State.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's just because every one of those teams has issues.
Yeah.
Alabama's defense, but I just don't see how you stop Alabama. Clemson has not looked that great this year. Georgia, I was kind of surprised at how they were not able to handle the moment so well against Notre Dame. Basically, I think Ohio State has looked the most solid.
They're the most complete. I mean, they look good on defense and offense.
But they've not played anybody, and we'll see. We'll see. Wisconsin's looked dominant. Penn State's looked dominant, except for, they did struggle a little bit against Pitt. But I would put them in that category of the teams that I've been most impressed with thus far. And LSU, of course.
Oh, yeah.
LSU.
LSU.
But I guess I just realized because those teams are going to handle it in a month or so, and that's going to shake out in the SEC and the Big Ten. I think the winner of those conferences are definitely in the playoffs, and we'll just go from there. But that's a Week 6 review. A lot of good games. This is the best week besides rivalry weekend of the year.
Coming up.
So this one right here, you can get in front of the couch and watch games all day. And I look forward to seeing this and being back here next week, reviewing the games next week.
Yeah.
So we're getting to the halfway point. We'll be there. A lot of teams getting bowl eligible already.
Yep. They're jockeying for position.
Yeah. Now we're getting into the big conference games. Yeah. So anyway, that's good. That's college football Week 6 review, Cfbbroadcast.com. Thank you guys much for listening and watching. We'd like to thank our producer and editor, Perry Madison and Kimberly Madison, for editing our show. Thank you guys much. Signing out from She Shed Radio Studios. It's LA and JB, Cfbbroadcast.com. See you guys next week.